Wide receiver has become the new glamour position in the NFL, with players landing eye-watering contracts that would make quarterbacks of the 2010s jealous. The passing game has never been more crucial, and the league's best receivers are being handsomely rewarded. Justin Jefferson's recent mega deal, earning him $35 million per year, headlines a list that now includes 4 receivers with annual salaries exceeding $30 million. It's been a busy year for contracts at the position, and with many more stars currently after blockbuster deals, we thought it was an opportune moment to reflect on some of the times when these investments didn't pan out. Here are the 5 worst wide receiver contracts since 2010. To kick things off, we're taking a trip to the New York Giants camp to remind ourselves about their disastrous contract offer to Kenny Golladay. In fairness to them, there was much to be excited about in Galladay's game based on his second and third years in the league. He was an imposing deep threat for the Lions with good size, impressive athleticism, and a knack for making eye-opening catches on the sidelines. He posted back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to show what he can do, prompting much excitement about his potential. His 1,190-yard effort in 2019 featured a league-leading 11 touchdowns and earned him his first Pro Bowl selection. Unfortunately, he was unable to follow that up because of an injury-marred season in 2020. Nevertheless, the New York Giants felt they had seen enough to believe that he was the answer to their uninspiring wide receiver room. The team had been without a true number 1 weapon since Odell Beckham had left 2 years earlier, and Golladay appeared to be the savior they needed, offering size and explosiveness that would make him Daniel Jones' best friend. The 4-year, $72 million contract given to Golladay prior to the 2021 season was a reflection of how highly the Giants valued his skill set, which is why it was such a shock that he could only muster up 521 yards and 0 touchdowns in his first year with the team. Perhaps it was an injury that caused such shockingly low numbers. Nope, he was just that bad. Despite the team being ravaged by injuries, Golladay failed to capitalize on the opportunity and put out a good season. He was a shell of the player that led the league in touchdowns just 2 years earlier. The contract inexplicably included $40 million worth of guarantees, which went up in smoke when Golladay was cut just 1 year later. The final sorry season consisted of just 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown, with Golladay falling behind the likes of Isaiah Hodgins and Marcus Johnson on the depth chart. Golladay failed to sign with another team after that poor stint in New York, confirming his status as the worst wide receiver contract of all time. Percy Harvin was one of the most exciting talents to enter the NFL in the late 2000s. The Minnesota Vikings selected him because of his incredible speed and ability to impact the game in multiple ways. As a rookie, he posted 790 receiving yards, 135 rushing yards, and 2 kick return touchdowns, which was good enough to earn him the Offensive Rookie of the Year award and a first-team All-Pro selection. Harvin would improve throughout the rest of his career with the Vikings, but would suffer an ankle injury that would cut his 2012 season short. It was a frustrating injury for Harvin, who looked set to hit career highs, instead having to settle for 677 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 105-yard kick return touchdown on the season. The versatile weapon was ranked 90th in the NFL's top 100 players list that year, but it didn't stop the Vikings from trading him away to the Seattle Seahawks, who promptly gave him a 6-year, $67 million contract. It was a frustrating first season for Harvin, who was restricted to just 1 regular season game because of a labrum tear. He did manage to get back on the field for the Seahawks' 2013 playoff run and even scored a kickoff return touchdown to help them win the Super Bowl. However, it was all downhill from there, and it descended quickly. It was reported that Harvin had locker room incidents with teammates and even refused to go onto the field at times. When you combine this with his injuries and lackluster performances resulting in just 133 yards and no touchdowns across the first 5 games of the 2014 season, the Seahawks rightly decided it was time to cut their losses. Harvin was traded to the Jets for a conditional draft pick just over a year after signing his $67 million contract. Our next wide receiver is Michael Thomas, who took no time at all to announce himself as one of the best playmakers in the NFL. Thomas set franchise rookie records with 92 receptions for 1,137 yards and 9 touchdowns. He improved in 2017 to post 1,245 yards and 104 catches, before stepping up to another level in 2018 to register a league-leading 124 catches for 1,405 yards and 9 touchdowns. His 321 receptions were the most by any player in their first 3 seasons, earning him 3 Pro Bowls and 2 first-team All-Pro selections in his first 3 years. Not a bad way to start your career. In 2019, to reward him for his historically good start, the Saints made Thomas the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, giving him a 5-year, $100 million contract. Thomas repaid them for their faith by going nuclear, setting a new NFL record for 149 receptions, which he converted into a league-leading 1,725 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was a machine and a very popular target for Drew Brees, earning himself the prestigious Offensive Player of the Year award. It appeared that a Hall of Fame career was on the cards for Thomas, who surpassed 1,100 yards in each of his first 4 seasons. Unfortunately, all of that came crashing down when he suffered a high ankle sprain in week 1 of the 2020 season. The injury sidelined him for 4 weeks, but his return to the field was delayed further because of an off-field incident where he punched teammate CJ Gardner-Johnson in practice. It was a messy season in which the off-field incident and lingering injury resulted in just 7 games played and only 438 yards. He then missed the entirety of 2021 because of complications around surgery on his ankle. He returned to action in 2022, but injuries continued to pop up, limiting him to just 13 games played and 619 yards from his 2022 and 2023 seasons. For a player who relied on his elite route running to make up for his average speed, these injuries ended up proving fatal for his career as a high-level wide receiver. There were also continued injuries off the field, with Thomas falling out with the team over disagreements about his injury management. Ultimately, it has been a very disappointing decline from what could have been a Hall of Fame career. Dez Bryant was a star for America's team in the early stages of his career. The pinnacle was a 3-year stretch between 2012 and 2014, in which he surpassed the 1,200-yard mark 3 times in a row and led the league in receiving touchdowns with 16 in 2014. The big-bodied receiver was known for his ability to make spectacular catches, which, combined with his being on the Cowboys, elevated his status to one of the most popular stars in the NFL. After 1 season, Bryant sold the 5th most jerseys, behind only Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. His fantastic 2014 season won him a first-team All-Pro selection and landed him at 15th on the NFL's top 100 list. Recognizing what they had, the Cowboys committed to Bryant by offering him a 5-year, $70 million contract, which included $45 million guaranteed. Unfortunately, as has been the case for many on this list, the elation of locking up a superstar was quickly replaced with injury-fueled frustration. Just like in the case of Michael Thomas in our last segment, Dez Bryant was sidelined during the first game of the season due to a fractured foot. He could only manage 9 games that year, producing just 401 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bryant did manage to recover and play most of his 2016 and 2017 seasons, but output of 796 and 838 yards respectively is well below what you would want from your $70 million wide receiver. Consequently, the Cowboys decided to call it a day on the former star, releasing him in 2018 after 8 years with the team. After collecting 3,935 yards and 41 touchdowns in the 3 years prior to signing his mega contract, Bryant could only manage 2,035 yards and 17 touchdowns in the 3 years that followed. It's another classic case of injuries getting in the way of what could have been a very special career. Our final wide receiver is Allen Robinson, who has had some very unusual ups and downs throughout his career. After showing glimpses of promise as a rookie, Robinson took the league by storm as a sophomore, collecting 80 receptions for 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. He was a big receiver who made the most of his size to bully cornerbacks and dominate in contested catch situations. It was a very impressive season that saw Robinson become the first player in Jaguars history to lead the league in touchdowns. There was immense excitement amongst fans about what ceiling Robinson could reach, but they were left disappointed when he turned out an underwhelming 883-yard, 6-touchdown season the next year. A similar kind of letdown occurred for Robinson in Chicago, where he declined from 1,250 yards in 2020 to just 410 from 12 games in 2021. Consistency from year to year was clearly an issue, frustrating fans who desperately wanted to see the upside that comes with a player of his size and talent. Fans weren't the only ones who saw the potential. In 2022, the Rams brought him in to replace the departing Odell Beckham Jr., offering him a $46.5 million contract in the hope that they could rejuvenate some of the magic from his early years. It was a risky move, given Robinson was fresh off a dismal season in Chicago, but the Rams obviously felt that there was still something to work with. They were wrong. Robinson struggled in the Rams offense, clearly well below the levels of athleticism that made him a dangerous player in previous years. In 10 games, all he could muster up was 339 yards and 3 touchdowns, setting a new career low of 10.3 yards per reception. Things then got worse after a foot injury required surgery, placing him on injured reserve for the remainder of the year. It was a dismal season for Robinson, forcing the Rams to admit their mistake and trade away their newly signed $46.5 million wide receiver just 1 year after he signed. All they got in return was a swap of 7th-round draft picks. With all the big money deals flying around the NFL for wide receivers at the moment, this unfortunate list of wasted money is a reminder that nothing in the NFL is guaranteed. Whether it's down to poor discipline, declining skill, or just awful injury luck, some contracts can turn out to be disasters. That was certainly the case for the players in this video, but who do you think might be the next to join this list? Let us know in the comments.